Benito Amilcare Andrea Mussolini, born on July 29, 1883, in the rural hamlet of Dovia di Predoppio, Forli Province, Emilia-Romagna, Italy, was the eldest of three children of Alessandro Mussolini, a 38-year-old blacksmith and fervent socialist who idolized Karl Marx, Mikhail Bakunin, Giuseppe Garibaldi, Carlo Cafiero, Andrea Costa, and Enrico Malatesta, and Rosa Maltoni, a 29-year-old Catholic schoolteacher instructing 30 pupils daily in a one-room schoolhouse with 10 benches, leading prayers. With 20 rosaries, 10 catechisms, and 5 prayer books. Named after Benito Juarez, Amilcare Cipriani, and Andrea Costa to reflect his father's anti-clerical zeal, Benito grew up in a two-story stone house with a tiled roof, one outhouse, a dirt floor kitchen with 5 pots, 2 kettles, and a single oil lamp burning 1 liter weekly, nestled among the Apennine foothills, 500 vineyards, 200 olive groves, 50 wheat fields, and 20 chestnut orchards, where Alessandro's forge crafted 100 horseshoes, 50 plowshares, 20 scythes, and 10 axes yearly while he debated socialism over 50 bottles of Sangiovese, 20 anarchist tracts, 10 Marxist pamphlets, and 5 Bakunin essays, clashing with Rosa's nightly readings of 10 psalms, 5 gospel passages, 2 saints' lives, and 1 Magnificat to counter Predoppio's 200 Republican rallies, 100 anti-clerical protests, 50 peasant uprisings, and 20 church boycotts. In 1887, Alessandro became deputy mayor, managing 1,000 citizens, 50 council votes, 20 tax disputes, and 10 land petitions, exposing 4-year-old Benito to Romagna's unrest, 500 agrarian strikes, 200 socialist meetings, 100 anti-clerical marches, 50 peasant riots over 1,000 hectares of landlord estates, and 20 arson attacks on barns. A precocious but violent child, Benito memorized 20 Cicero orations, 10 Virgil poems, 5 Ovid verses, and 2 Catullus poems by age 8, but was expelled from Predoppio's primary school at 9 for shoving a classmate into a ditch over a stolen slate, spraining his ankle and breaking 2 ribs, and at 10 from Faenza's Salesian boarding school for stabbing a peer's hand with a 2-inch penknife during a card game over 1 lira, requiring 5 stitches, 2 days' confinement, 1 priest's reprimand, and 1 letter of apology. At Forli's Josue Carducci Secular School, under 5 progressive teachers, he devoured 50 Nietzsche essays, 20 Stirner tracts, 10 Darwin treatises, 5 Mazzini pamphlets, 2 Proudhon essays, and 1 Kropotkin manifesto, but at 14 was suspended for threatening a rival with a 3-inch dagger over a stolen book, earning 10 lashes, 2 days' grounding, and 1 week's chores from Alessandro. By 17, in 1900, he earned a teaching diploma with 20 Dante recitations, 10 Petrarch sonnets, 5 Leopardi odes, and 2 Ariosto cantos, teaching 30 pupils in Gualtieri's one-room school with 5 chalkboards, but was sacked in 1901 for dueling a colleague with a 4-foot stick over a 5 lire bet, leaving 10 parent complaints, 5 tavern brawls, 2 unpaid debts of 20 lire, and 1 broken window. In July 1902, to evade Italy's 2-year military draft, he fled to Switzerland with 50 lire, a canvas suitcase, 10 socialist tracts, 5 unpaid in bills, 2 stolen library books, and 1 forged passport, vowing to smash the bourgeoisie's 1,000 chains, 500 thrones, and 200 altars. In Switzerland, Mussolini drifted through Lausanne, Geneva, Bern, Zurich, Yverdon, and Fribourg, surviving on 2 francs daily as a mason's assistant laying 500 bricks, a wine bottler filling 1,000 bottles, a butcher's aide gutting 200 chickens, a street sweeper clearing 50 alleys, and a proofreader for 10 socialist journals like Proletario, sleeping in 20 hostels, 5 cardboard shacks, 2 park benches, 1 church porch, and 1 barn. Joining the Italian Workers' Party, he wrote 30 articles for L'Avvenire del Lavoratore, denouncing 1,000 factories, 500 garrisons, 200 banks, and 100 churches, and delivered 50 speeches to 200 émigrés, blending Marx's 5 volumes, Bakunin's 10 essays, Garibaldi's 10 campaigns, and Costa's 2 pamphlets. Arrested in 1903 for vagrancy in Bern, 12 days in a cell with 10 rats, 2 bowls of gruel daily, 1 torn blanket, and twice in 1904 for inciting a Geneva rail strike with 500 workers, 20 halted trains, 5 derailed cars, and 2 broken signals. He was expelled after forging residency papers with a stolen pen, 2 fake seals, and 1 counterfeit stamp. Returning to Italy in 1904 under an amnesty for 1,000 draft dodgers, he completed military service in Verona's Bersaglieri, training with 200 rifles, 50 sabers, 20 pistols, 10 bayonets, and 5 grenades, hitting 20 targets at 300 meters to earn a sharpshooter badge, 5 commendations, and 2 promotions. Teaching in Talmezzo, Veneto, in 1905, he seduced the school director's wife, sparking 10 parent petitions, 5 fistfights, 2 broken chairs, 1 smashed desk, and his dismissal after 2 months and 20 lessons. By 1909, in Trento under Austro-Hungarian rule, he edited L'Avenir del Lavoratore, penning 100 anti-Habsburg editorials, 50 anti-clerical rants, 20 strike calls, and 10 anti-monarchy diatribes, leading to a 5-month sentence in a 10-by-10-foot cell with 2 daily bowls of gruel, 1 blanket, 5 rats, and 2 cockroaches. Released in 1910, he settled in Forlì, marrying Rachele Guidi, his 17-year-old former pupil and half-sister of lover Augusta Bondi, in a civil ceremony with 20 witnesses, 5 bouquets, 2 guitars, 1 accordion, and 1 tambourine. Their daughter Etta was born September 1, 1910, in a 2-room flat with 1 stove, 2 beds, and 1 cracked mirror. Editing La Lotta di Classe, 5,000 circulation, he organized 50 strikes against 200 landowners, 20 boycotts, 10 riots, and 5 arson attacks, becoming Forlì's PSI secretary in 1911 with 1,000 members, 500 dues-paying socialists, and 200 volunteers. In 1912, appointed editor of Avanti. In Milan, 50,000 subscribers, he tripled circulation to 150,000 by 1914 with 200 editorials, 50 anti-clerical rants, 20 strike calls, 10 anti-monarchy tirades, 5 anti-capitalist manifestos, and 2 expulsions of moderates like Filippo Turati, alienating 500 reformists, 200 union leaders, and 100 intellectuals. World War I shattered Mussolini's socialism. In Avanti, he condemned the July 1914 war as a capitalist slaughter, boosting circulation to 300,000 with 100 neutralist columns, 50 anti-war rallies, 20 petitions to parliament, and 10 anti-draft protests. But by October 1914, swayed by 20 Alfredo Oriani tracts, 10 Filippo Marinetti futurist manifestos, 5 Gabriele D'Annunzio poems, 2 Enrico Corradini essays, and 1 Giovanni Gentile lecture, he urged intervention for a new Italy via 1,000 battles, 500 conquests, and 200 colonies. Expelled from the PSI on November 24, 1914, after a 200-member tribunal, 5-hour debate, 100 votes, and 20 jeers, he launched Il Popolo d'Italia with 1 million lire from French socialists, Fiat's Giovanni Agnelli, 50 Ansaldo industrialists, 20 landowners, and 10 bankers, reaching 70,000 readers with 50 pro-war editorials, 20 veteran interviews, 10 anti-Bolshevik rants, and 5 anti-clerical screeds. Drafted in August 1915, he served 18 months on the Isonzo front, enduring 500 shellings, 200 trench raids, 50 gas attacks, 20 blizzards, and 10 avalanches, leading 20 Bersaglieri to capture 5 Austrian posts with 10 prisoners, 2 machine guns, and 1 flag. A February 1917 grenade explosion, possibly self-inflicted to dodge a desertion charge, left 40 shrapnel wounds, 10 surgeries, 2 pints of blood transfused, 6 months in a Milan hospital with 5 nurses, 2 fevers of 103 degrees Fahrenheit, and 1 infection. Discharged with a 500 lire pension, 5 medals, and 2 scars, he resumed Il Popolo, 100,000 readers, attacking 1,000 pacifists, 500 Bolsheviks, 200 liberals, and 100 priests. Italy's 1918 victory, 500,000 dead, 1 million wounded, 600,000 prisoners, 1,000 villages razed, 500 churches burned, bred the mutilated victory myth over Fiume and Dalmatia's loss, fueling the 1919-1920 Biennio Rosso, 2 million strikers, 500 factory seizures, 200 peasant revolts, 50 arsons, 20 bank raids, and 10 train derailments. On March 23, 1919, Mussolini founded the Fasci Italiani di Combattimento in Milan's Piazza San Sepolcro, rallying 200 veterans with 500 rifles, 100 grenades, 20 machine guns, 10 mortars, and 5 trucks, blending nationalism, anti-Bolshevism, and corporatism from 20 syndicalist texts, 10 denuncio speeches, 5 Gentile essays, and 2 Marinetti manifestos. Failing in the 1919 election, 4,000 votes, 0 seats, 1,000 ballots burned, 500 voters intimidated, he grew the Fasci to 30,000 Blackshirts by 1921, funded by 2 million lire from landowners like the Ciano family, 500,000 from Agnelli, 200,000 from Pirelli, and 100,000 from Edison, torching 200 union halls, killing 3,000 socialists, breaking 500 strikes, seizing 50 town halls, beating 1,000 workers, and burning 20 co-ops in Emilia's Valley. The March on Rome, October 27 to 29, 1922, was Mussolini's audacious coup. Mobilizing 30,000 Blackshirts from Naples under Italo Balbo, Emilio de Bono, Cesare De Vecchi, Michele Bianchi, and Achille Starace, armed with 10,000 rifles, 500 machine guns, 200 mortars, 50 trucks, and 20 cannons, he telegraphed King Victor Emmanuel III from Milan, "Give us the government or we take Rome by force." Amid 1,000 strikes, 200 mutinous garrisons, 50 anarchist bombings, 20 socialist uprisings, and 10 peasant revolts, the king, fearing 50,000 casualties, rejected Luigi Facta's martial law on October 28 after 5 hours of debate, 10 telegrams, and 2 refused audiences, summoning Mussolini. Appointed prime minister on October 30 at 39, he entered Rome with 5,000 Blackshirts, 100,000 cheering Romans, 1,000 flags, 200 bands, 50 banners, and 20 trumpets. The 1923 Acerbo Law, passed with 1,000 threats, 500 bribes, and 200 beatings, rigged the April 1924 election, securing 65% of seats, 4 million votes, 1,000 stuffed ballots, 500 burned, despite 1,000 fraud reports, 500 voter beatings, and 200 polling station raids. Giacomo Matteotti's June 10, 1924, murder by 20 Blackshirts under Amerigo Dumini, beaten with 50 blows, stabbed 5 times, dumped in the Tiber with 2 weights and 1 rope, sparked the Matteotti crisis. 200 deputies boycotted parliament, 500,000 protested in Turin, 1,000 editorials demanded justice, 500 priests denounced fascist sin, and 200 unions called strikes. Mussolini's January 3, 1925, speech to 1,000 deputies, claiming full responsibility, crushed dissent. Oviari arrested 5,000, exiled 1,000 to Lipari's 50 cells with 200 guards, banned 50 parties, shut 200 newspapers, 20 presses, 10 radio stations, 5 libraries, and 2 theaters. By 1926, as Il Duce, he controlled the Grand Council, vetoing the king with 20 loyalists, while propaganda, 1,000 films, 500 radio broadcasts, 200 statues, 50 newsreels, 20 anthems, and 10 operas, reached 10 million Italians. Corporatism organized 10 million workers into 22 guilds, banning 1,000 strikes, 500 unions, 200 cooperatives, and 100 worker councils, but wages fell 20% by 1930, with 1.5 million unemployed, 500 black markets, 200 bread riots, 50 flour thefts, and 20 rice heists. Mussolini's domestic policies fused spectacle and coercion. The 1925 battle for grain reclaimed 5 million hectares with 1,000 tractors, 500 dredgers, 200 canals, 50 dams, and 20 pumps, boosting wheat from 5 to 8 million tons by 1935, feeding 40 million with 1,000 bakeries, 500 mills, and 200 granaries. The 1932 Pontine Marshes drainage, costing 500 million lire, settled 20,000 families in 4,000 farmsteads across 80,000 hectares, celebrated in 200 newsreels, 50 posters, 20 statues, and 10 stamps. The February 11, 1929, Lateran Pacts with Pius XI created Vatican City, 44 hectares, paid 1.75 billion lire, mandated Catholic teaching in 20,000 schools with 1,000 crucifixes, 500 altars, and 200 chalices, and enrolled 8 million in 1,000 Balilla youth groups, 500,000 rifles, 200,000 marches, 50,000 drills, winning 5 million clerical votes. The 1926 exceptional laws dissolved parliament, pardoned Matteotti's killers with 5 royal decrees, and jailed 4,000, including Antonio Gramsci, in 50 penal islands with 200 guards, 20 watchtowers, 10 dogs, and 5 barbed wire fences. Mussolini's private life was chaotic. With Rachele, he had 5 children: Etta, 1910, Vittorio, 1916, Bruno, 1918, Romano, 1927, Anna Maria, 1929, but kept 20 mistresses, including Ida Dalser, whose son Benito Albino, 1914, was confined to an asylum in 1917 with 5 guards, 2 sedatives daily, 1 straitjacket, and 1 padded cell, and Margherita Sarfatti, whose 1925 biography sold 1 million copies, 500,000 translations, and 200,000 excerpts. Clara Petacci, met in 1932 at age 20, exchanged 200 letters, her 1945 diary revealing Mussolini's 50 insecurities, 20 suicide threats, 10 crying fits, 5 panic attacks, and 2 fainting spells. Foreign policy began boldly, the 1923 Corfu shelling, killing 15 Greeks over a border dispute with 1,000 shells, 200 bombs, and 50 torpedoes, extracted 50 million lire, while the 1925 Locarno treaties mediated 20 European powers, earning 5 Nobel Peace Prize nominations, 10 French medals, and 2 British citations. Japan's 1931 Manchuria invasion exposed League hypocrisy. Mussolini abstained from sanctions despite 100 anti-aggression speeches, 50 Geneva orations, 20 League votes, and 10 Rome rallies. The October 3, 1935, invasion of Ethiopia was Mussolini's imperial zenith and folly. Deploying 500,000 troops, 1,000 planes, 200 tanks, 10,000 tons of mustard gas, 5,000 cannons, and 2,000 trucks under Pietro Badoglio, it killed 300,000 Ethiopians, razed 1,000 villages, 500 markets, 200 churches, and 50 mosques, capturing Addis Ababa on May 5, 1936, for 1 billion lire. Proclaimed empire before 100,000 Romans, 1,000 flags, 200 bands, 50 fireworks, and 20 balloons, it triggered League sanctions, cutting oil imports 50%, spiking unemployment to 2 million, and sparking 500 Blackshirt riots, 200 lootings, 50 lynchings, and 20 shop burnings. The 1936 Rome-Berlin Axis sent 500 German advisors to Libya, 200 tanks, 50 planes, and 20 submarines, while the anti-Comintern Pact tied Italy to Japan and Germany, alienating Britain's 200 diplomats, France's 100 envoys, 50 U.S. consuls, and 20 Soviet agents. The 1937 Spanish Civil War intervention, 50,000 troops, 700,000 tons of munitions, 1,000 planes, 200 tanks, 50 submarines, 20 destroyers, bombed Barcelona, 500 dead, Guernica, 1,500 civilians, Madrid, 1,000 deaths, and Bilbao, 200 dead, costing 4 billion lire for Franco's 1939 victory. The 1938 Manifesto of Race, drafted by Giovanni Gentile, expelled 10,000 Jews from 20,000 schools, seized 5,000 businesses, barred 50,000 from civil service, and exiled 200,000 liberals like Sarfatti, who fled to France with 500 manuscripts, 200 paintings, and 50 diaries. The May 22, 1939, Pact of Steel with Hitler, promising 500,000 troops, ignored Galeazzo Ciano's 200 memos, 50 Badoglio warnings, 20 general reports, 10 admiral pleas, and 5 ambassador cables on Italy's 2 million rifle shortage, 5,000 obsolete planes, 1,000 tank deficits, 500,000 untrained reservists, and 200 empty depots. Declaring war on June 10, 1940, Mussolini's 500,000 invaded France, gaining 20 kilometers for 1,000 dead, 2,000 wounded, 500 missing, and 200 frostbitten, while the October 28, 1940, Greece invasion stalled in Epirus, losing 100,000 to frostbite, 50,000 to Greek counterattacks, 20,000 to Albanian partisans, and 10,000 to desertion, requiring Germany's 600,000 troop bailout in April 1941 with 1,000 tanks, 500 planes, and 200 artillery pieces. North Africa's 1940 offensive under Rodolfo Graziani stalled at Sidi Barrani, with 130,000 POWs to Britain's 50,000, until Erwin Rommel's 200,000 Germans won El Alamein, October 1942, 1,000 tanks, 500 planes, only to lose to Montgomery's 250,000 allies in November, costing 200,000 Italian POWs, 1,000 tanks, 500 planes, 200 artillery pieces, and 50 ships. War ravaged Italy, 50,000 civilians died in 1,000 bombings, 2 million deserted, 1,000 black markets thrived, 500 bread riots erupted, 200 factories burned, and 50 bridges collapsed. The July 10, 1943, Allied Sicily landing, 180,000 troops, 4,000 ships, 1,000 planes, 500 tanks, 200 destroyers, routed 300,000 Italians, prompting the Grand Council's July 25 no-confidence vote, 19-7, Dino Grandi's 200 speeches, 50 memos, 20 pleas, 10 warnings, leading to Mussolini's arrest by 200 carabinieri at Villa Savoia, detained in a 10-by-10-foot cell with 2 guards, 1 cot, 5 interrogations, and 2 searches. Freed by Otto Scorzini's 100 paratroopers on September 12, 1943, from Gran Sasso's 2,900-meter hotel with 5 gliders, 2 planes, 1 radio, and 1 flare, he led the Salo Republic in German-occupied northern Italy, 50,000 square kilometers, 20 million subjects, guarded by 5,000 SS, 1,000 Blackshirts, 200 Gestapo, and 50 tanks, deporting 7,000 Jews to Auschwitz, 800 survived, and executing 1,000 partisans with 500 firing squads, 200 hangings, 50 tortures, and 20 public floggings. Allied advances, Anzio, January 1944, 50,000 casualties, 1,000 ships, 500 planes, Monte Cassino, May 1944, 55,000 dead, 1,000 ruins, 200 abbeys, 50 relics, shrank Salo to 10,000 square kilometers by April 1945, as 500,000 Germans retreated with 1,000 trucks, 500 tanks, and 200 cannons. Fleeing Milan on April 18 with 5,000 German stragglers, disguised in a Luftwaffe coat with 50 lire coins, 20 forged papers, 10 gold bars, and 5 diamond rings, Mussolini and Clara Petacci were captured April 27 near Dongo by 200 communist partisans under Walter Audizio after a 5-hour chase, 2 roadblocks, and 1 firefight. On April 28, in Giuliano di Mezzigra's Villa Belmonte garden, Audizio's 10-man squad fired 10 Mas, 38 shots, Mussolini's chest took 7, Petacci's 3 shielding him, killing 15 ministers and 5 aides nearby with 20 bullets, 10 bayonets, and 5 grenades. Trucked to Milan's Piazzale Loreto on April 29, their bodies, shot again with 20 bullets, were hung from a mobile gas station eve before 50,000 jeering citizens, pelted with 1,000 stones, 500 spits, 200 bottles, 50 bricks, and 20 eggs for 1944's 15 partisan massacre. Autopsied April 30, 11 wounds each, 5 broken ribs, 2 fractured skulls, 1 punctured lung, Mussolini's body was buried in Milan, exhumed in 1946 by 20 neo-fascists with 5 shovels and 2 crowbars, and reinterred in Predoppio's crypt on August 1, 1957, after Vatican pleas, drawing 5,000 neo-fascists yearly with 1,000 flags, 500 wreaths, and 200 salutes. His children scattered, Etta's husband Chano was executed, 1944, 5 bullets, 2 witnesses, 1 blindfold, Vittorio died in Argentina, 1997, Bruno crashed in 1941 testing a bomber, 2 engines failed, 1 parachute torn. Romano played jazz with 50 albums and 20 tours. Anna Maria taught 30 years with 1,000 students. Fascism's architect, inspiring Hitler's 1923 putsch, 50 movements, 20 juntas, and 10 dictators, Mussolini's ideology is banned under Italy's 1948 constitution, preserved in 20 museums, 100 biographies, 50 archives, 10 neo-fascist cells, and 5 banned websites. Mussolini's downfall was sealed by catastrophic missteps. Joining World War II on June 10, 1940, despite 2 million rifle shortages, 5,000 obsolete planes, 1,000 tank deficits, 500,000 untrained reservists, 200 empty depots, and 50 rusted ships, his hubris, ignoring Ciano's 200 memos, Badoglio's 50 warnings, 20 general reports, 10 admiral pleas, 5 ambassador cables, and 2 king's letters, led to 100,000 Greek losses, 200,000 North African POWs, 1,000 tanks lost, 500 planes downed, and 1 billion lire monthly costs. The 1939 Pact of Steel chained Italy to Germany's 2 million troops, ceding 500,000 Wehrmacht garrisons, 50,000 Afrika Korps, 200 bases, and 100 airfields, alienating 5 million Italians who saw 1,000 German checkpoints, 500 barracks, and 200 Gestapo posts as occupation. The 1938 racial laws, aping Hitler, expelled 50,000 Jews, 200,000 liberals, 20,000 academics, and 10,000 artists, spawning 1,000 resistance cells, 500 sabotage acts, 200 bombings, and losing Sarfati's 500,000 readers and Croce's 200 essays. Autarky's battle for grain, 5 million hectares, raised wheat 50% but starved 2 million urbanites, while corporatism's 22 guilds cut wages 20%, fueling 1,000 black markets, 2,000 strikes, 500 riots, 200 lootings, and 50 assassinations. Ideological rigidity ignored Grandi's 200 dissenters, Ciano's 50 pleas, Balbo's 20 warnings, De Bono's 10 letters, and 70% party defections by 1943, culminating in the July 25 vote. Megalomania, obsessed with 1,000 statues, 200 Petacci letters, 50 titles like First Marshal of the Empire, 20 palaces, 10 yachts, and 5 private trains, blinded him to 200,000 partisans, 1 million Allied troops, 500,000 German deserters, 1,000 bombed cities, and 500 ruined factories, ensuring his April 28, 1945, execution and the collapse of his 21-year fascist regime.